I wore my best pinstripe suit to the railway station, with the same chestnut and white two-tone spats that I had worn to my graduation and wedding. In the front breast pocket, I placed a small photograph of my daughter, crumpled at the edges, creased across the middle. I hadn't realized how much weight I had lost until I wrapped that suit around me and tied a loose half-Windsor knot into my tie. The suit itself was fawn in color, linen, with cloud-white pinstripes, totally wrong for my complexion, I had been told. But it was comfortable, and for me it represented the chrysalis from which I was to emerge. Once I descended the 3 stairs from the front porch to the concrete walkway, the other steps came quickly. I meant to turn around for one last look, but by the time I thought to do so, I was over a block away and couldn't see the house anymore. From there I kept walking, past sunflowers, fields of wilted grass, bales of autumn hay, even the Richardson property, without breaking stride. The farther I walked, the more the colors around me softened. By now, though, most of the farms were little more than sand and rotting plywood. The only voices were cicadas that fell silent as I approached and began their whispers again as I had passed. At the edge of my vision, I saw the well. The police had warned us not to use the water for a few days after they removed my daughter's body because, sometimes, a body can contaminate the supply. Sometimes, some of the skin stays behind. The emptiness in my suit allowed for a degree of cushioning against the sun. My heels scraped against the bone-pale, dead-white dust and loose rocks, and for the first time in my life, I couldn't find a rhythm to my steps. I didn't whistle, nor hum, and my mouth dried, my throat grew parched, and that was okay with me, since I couldn't find a single reason why I'd ever need to speak again. For those I left behind, I knew my voice was already a memory, and I knew that this place, my home, would forget about the rest of me as soon as my shoes left the pebbles beneath them. The railway station was obscured by swirls of dry afternoon and glazed sunlight. As crowded as the bench was, I was able to squeeze into the edge and, like the rest of the occupants, turn my head expectantly toward the direction in which the train would arrive. Although I held no admiration for the machines themselves, what I've always liked about train tracks is the way they converge on the horizon and give the impression that someday, inevitably, pleasantly, the future will come to a fixed point, a sharp, metallic conclusion. They give the illusion that whatever is lost can easily be replaced by distance. By the time the dawn lightning rolled into the station, I'd mopped the sweat from my neck, brow, and palms, and had counted the splintering planks on the platform floor at least a dozen times. I counted the nails which attached them at least a dozen more. When I entered my appointed car, the aisles were still crowded with travelers waiting for others to make a decision. Baggage was stacked to the sides and all around us, as if taking priority over the passengers. I searched for familiar faces, not expecting or finding any, and then took the nearest available seat, on the aisle, facing the rest of the car and the back of the train, so that I could only see where I'd been, which was fine since I didn't really care where I was headed, and placed my suitcase in my lap. I wanted to ease into sleep and dream another life until I arrived at a location where I could actually build one. The train pulled into the expanding sunlight, away from the station's shadow and gravity. I saw a woman standing at the station trying to purchase a ticket. An old man sat on a bench near the platform, staring intently in the direction the train had traveled from, as if he were waiting for something else, something better to follow. The train rattled, metal jolting metal, as cinders and traces of coal streaked the windows, each flake the color of pepper, carrying its sharp scent throughout the coach. You had to blink through the fog of heat, noise, sweat, and conversation to maintain your bearings. We were moving, But on that platform, that old man's gaze didn't change. We were the only daily train. No others would follow. What was he waiting for? My father? My uncle? A slave ship? A tall ship? Something ancient to return? But there was only smoke. We were like the nautical travelers of ages ago, headed towards the edge of the earth, unconcerned with falling over. All we had was faith and what we could barely see beside or behind us. But we were eager for change, anything different, even drowning. By the next morning, we would be reborn. Deep down, many of us didn't trust or believe the newspapers and store catalogs that had promised a better life hundreds of miles colder. Many of those who traveled north before us had never returned, or we never heard from them again. As far as we knew, we were heading straight for the precipice, into salvation or perdition, and we were fine with either.